So let's come back here with the Public Service and Administration Minister. Senzo Mchunu has welcomed the signing of a deal with public sector workers. Government, through the department, tabled an offer of a 1.5% pensionable salary increase with a lump sum gratuity payable monthly ranging from 1,200 to 1,600 on a sliding scale from 1 April to the 31st of March next year. The Public Servants Association announcing on Monday that its members gave the union a mandate to accept the public service wage offer at the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. This followed an acceptance by the South African Democratic Teachers Union, and the National Professional Teachers Organisation of South Africa also agreed to it. Sindisiwa Chikunga is the Deputy Minister of the Public Service and Administration Department and joins us now. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for speaking to us. At some point, the police unions, POPCO and SABC, were not coming on board. Are they all on board, including the other three unions?
What we have, good evening, Tsepiso, and good evening to your viewers. What we have now is the majority of unions that have signed the agreement, and therefore the agreement is in force right now. There will be some unions within their rights that may have not signed the agreement. However, because the majority of unions have signed the agreement, then the agreement is in force.
So I understand as part of this, there are going to be cash payments that are on a sliding scale, which are supposed to at least support workers on the lower rung of the economic scale. Up until when is it backdated? And will there be anyone, as a result of taxation, at least coming out of it with less than 1,000 Rand a month?
The cash payment will be with effect from the 1st of April up until the end of March next year. And I think by then we shall have reached another agreement. The 1.5%, which is on the salary baseline, is with effect from the 1st of July. And this is payable from level 1 to level 12. And therefore that means that the senior managers, together with your politicians, are not included in this deal, but it's only from level 1 up to level 12 that are actually going to benefit from this agreement.
So these have been long drawn out negotiations, which, as you mentioned, not all unions have accepted them. Now, how, for instance, saying the agreement sets workers back, that it does not increase the pension for workers, and saying that the employer is telling everybody that it's an increase of 1.5% when this has long been negotiated. So therefore, the culmination should have been a better collective agreement.
You know, when we started, we were at 0% because of the very situation that we find ourselves in as a country in terms of economic growth. And of course, the challenges that we are facing, with the pandemic being one of those. However, through negotiations, the government was able to say, maybe let's therefore consider the 1.5% plus the cash payment, which is not on the baseline. And with the open cards being played or put on the table, and its government being very clear on the challenges that we are facing. I'm not talking about the destruction that happened last week. The unions could acknowledge and realize that whatever legal that we're putting with all the limitations, but they can then accept it. And this, therefore, for us is a win for all of us, because like I've said, when we started with the negotiations, we were at 0%. There was nothing that was on the table, but we tried to scrape here and there so that at least there's something that our public servants can get as an increment even this time around, despite the difficulty.
As you say, and the minister acknowledged this, that everybody has made sacrifices, but if you look at it, as you said, you're offering 0%. The unions were asking for 7%. You've now met at 1.5%. If you look at the other end of the line, it seems that more sacrifices have been made by workers, which is why some of them are saying it's a stopgap measure. It's all very well and good in saying that people will walk away with more cash in their hands at the moment, but long term, it is not sustainable. It's also saying, for instance, there's been lots of money lost to corruption. The government is not doing anything about. What are you committing to deal with some of these?
I think we will again be embarking on negotiations going forward, looking at the whole package, looking at the leave dispensation in the public service, allowance dispensation in the public service, and everything else. And that, I think it's going to happen much better after we have come to this agreement. I just want to say that it's very true that politicians, for instance, have not had salary increases for the past 3 years. That is a sacrifice. And I can tell you now, because I am a politician, that we do feel it, because it's not like we're getting the money that people think we are getting. And it's the same thing with the senior managers. They've not received salary increases. We've actually opted for increasing salaries for the lower categories of the public service. And that therefore means for us that we are trying to bring that stability. If it was according to the situation, honestly, we would not be talking about anything added.
So, Minister, allow me to interrupt you and say this, and I say this with the greatest of respect. Somebody who's at salary level 1 or even salary level 12 in comparison to what you may earn, it's really little comfort, and I'm sure you can understand this, and I don't disagree with you that you feel it. But the thing is, what are you saying to workers going forward? We say we face tougher conditions. COVID has no doubt done a number on our finances. Family members have been lost, breadwinners. So how are you going to work towards this? 27 billion rand, which you say was not budgeted for, but let's be forward-looking now.
What we're saying to our public servants is that we will be embarking on negotiations to look at what we can agree upon going forward. But one thing that our public servants are assured of is that, one, their job is not at risk. Nobody will be retrenched for whatever reasons. Their pension fund is still there. The allowances that they are getting, they're still going to get those allowances. I'm just making an example. This year, I think, in April, nurses received 3,000 rand, which is uniform allowance. They got it, and they will continue to get it as and when it is due. So we're not interfering with what the public servants are doing. However, we also acknowledge, Tsepiso, that yes, this agreement, there are limitations, but they don't come from our making. The situation in the country demands that this be the agreement this time around. And we want again to appreciate the work that the public servants are doing. I always say that when everything was at a standstill, when we're at lockdown level 5, the public servants kept South Africa going. We saw nurses going to work, and when everybody was not going to work, we saw police members, we saw defense force members, we saw, those that are providing frontline services going to work, and therefore keeping South Africa working. But of course, the situation is what it is.
Minister, I'm going to have to cut you off there. I do apologize. It's just because we've run out of time. Sindisiwa Chikunga is the Deputy Minister of the Public Service and Administration Department.